Many of us know the story of Anis and how he was martyred with the Bab, but few of us know the entire story. He was only 17 when he came upon some writings of the Bab and immediately was attracted and wanted to be a follower. In 1848, the Bab was brought from the prison of Sharik to Tabriz, where Anis lived, and he was not to be seen by anyone. He was going to be examined by an inquisition of priests, overseen by the crown prince, another 17-year-old, Nasruddin, who in 3 months would become Nasruddin Shah. However, when the Bab was brought into Tabriz, all the residents were forbidden to approach him. Town criers were sent throughout the city to announce, "Whosoever makes any attempt to approach the Sayyid Bab or seeks to meet him shall have all his possessions and property seized and be condemned to life imprisonment." It was quite a threat, but it didn't stop Anis. The Prophet was coming to Tabriz. He longed to meet his Lord, but his father was terrified of the consequences. So he locked Anis in his room so that he would not forfeit his entire property, the father. And for the entire time that the Bab was in Tabriz in 1848 for the Inquisition, of course, Anis did not get to see him. When the Bab was sent back to Sharik, the father decided to unlock the room and let him out. But then as soon as he did so, Anis started packing and making plans to go into the mountains and visit the Bab in Sharik. So once again, the father had to lock him. He didn't know what to do at this point because Anis was acting so crazy. He was crying all the time, weeping, wanting to go to Sharik. So the father asked a well-known Baha'i to come and speak with him. He was related to him. And just before this Baha'i came to visit Anis got very calm. The father heard nothing coming from the room. So now he really thought he had lost his mind. So when the Baha'i went in to see him, he asked him how he was, and because he was so calm, he wondered if he was out of his mind. And Anis said, "I am out of my mind. I'm in my heart." And he began to explain then how he had become so calm. He said that he was in despair, being unable to see the Bab, so miserable, so agitated, that one night, unable to sleep, he wept until dawn. In desperation, he turned his face towards Sharik and begged the Bab for relief. Suddenly he heard a voice. "Rejoice," said the Bab. "The hour is approaching when in this very city I shall be suspended before the eyes of the multitude and shall fall a victim to the fire of the enemy. I shall choose no one except you to share with me the cup of martyrdom. Rest assured that the promise which I give you shall be fulfilled." But Anis was now not only calm, but content. He agreed to keep his vision a secret, and this promise of martyrdom he also kept a secret. All desire to leave and go to Sharik left him. He was content. And so his father freed him from captivity in his room. For 2 years, Mirza Muhammad, that was his given name, was true to his promise. He proved to be a devoted son. His father at last relaxed. And for 2 years, he maintained this equanimity. He even married, although still a teenager, and then he became a father. 2 years passed in this idyllic manner, and then came the summer of 1850. The Bab was again to be brought to Tabriz, only this time to be executed. When the Bab arrived in town, he was stripped of his green turban and paraded through the streets of Tabriz. Tremendous commotion erupted. Crowds thronged the streets, lined the rooftops, straining to get a glimpse of the famous Sayyid merchant, the Bab. Never before had the city experienced such turmoil. And as the Bab approached the courtyard of the barracks where he was to be martyred, Anis forced his way through the crowd. Ignoring the armed guards and the danger, he leapt forward and threw himself at the feet of the Bab. "Send me not from thee, O master," he begged, off clutching the hem of the Bab's garment. Wherever thou goest, suffer me to follow thee. Muhammad, arise, said the Bab. Rest assured that you will be with me tomorrow. And you will then witness what God hath decreed. Anis was immediately seized and thrown into a separate cell from the Bab, but he begged to be allowed to be in the same cell as the Bab, and his wish was granted. That night the Bab's face shone with joy. It glowed, because his mission was now near its culmination and completion. Indifferent to the storm raging around him, he cheerfully conversed with Anis and with the other 3 Babis who shared the cell with him. And then he made an unusual request. A request that would cause Anis to be remembered until today and for all time. Tomorrow will be the day of my martyrdom, said the Bab to his 4 companions. Would that one of you, my devoted followers, might now arise and with his own hands end my life. I prefer to be slain by the hand of a friend rather than by that of an enemy. Other Babis shrank back at the thought of killing the manifestation of God. But Anis sprang to his feet. I am ready to obey instantly, he said, with exact obedience, whatever my Lord might ask of me. It was shocking enough to see him willing to murder the manifestation of God, even if it had been the Bab's own request. But what was equally surprising was his willingness to abandon his most cherished wish. Namely, if Anis strangled the Bab now, how could he be martyred with him on the morrow? In any event, the other Babis intervened, forced Anis to abandon his thought of killing the Bab. But what the other Babis thought was blasphemy was to the Bab obedience. This youth, he said, who has arisen to comply with my wish, will together with me suffer martyrdom. Him will I choose to share with me its crown. Suddenly it became clear why Anis had been promised this unique privilege. The Bab had foreseen his example of his unhesitating obedience. The station of instant and exact obedience had won for him this honor. That night the Bab bestowed upon him the name he has been known by, Anis, which means companion. For his unflinching obedience, Anis was now to be the Bab's companion for all eternity, through all the worlds of God. The next day, Anis begged the commander of the firing squad to position him in such a way that his own body might shield that of the Bab from the bullets. He was eventually suspended in such a way that his head rested on the breast of his Lord. And then the firing squad of 750 riflemen took aim. Most of us know the rest of the story with all its drama. How the Bab disappeared from the courtyard, how a second firing squad was lined up. But I think what gets lost sometimes in that drama is of the Bab's disappearance, and the formation of another firing squad is the essence, to me, of the story, of this drama. The act of instant and exact obedience to the manifestation of God. The beloved guardian has called the dust of the Bab the center of planet Earth. Abdu'l-Baha has said that so precious is the Bab's dust that the very earth surrounding the shrine that houses that dust is blessed. And Anis's dust is mingled with that of the Bab's. That spot, Abdu'l-Baha says, is the spot round which the concourse on high circle in adoration. Because obedience is love's companion. Obedience is the Bab's companion for all eternity. So to me, this holy day is a time to meditate on the obedience in my life. You know, obedience is not a very popular word in the modern world because the self has become a false god and seemingly the only authority to be obeyed. And yet all poetry and love lyrics have words to the extent, I'd climb any mountain for you, I'd even do wrong for you, I'd follow you anywhere. So clearly there is an innate desire to submit to an outside authority. However, the shambles of modern married life reveal to us that many people have mistakenly submitted to a fellow human being, who of course failed to be an infallible authority. And yet we Baha'is know what that infallible authority is today. Baha'u'llah tells us in the very first paragraph of his book of laws, the Kitab Yaqdas, that we have twin duties: to recognize the manifestation of God for the day in which we live, and to obey his laws. Through obedience to Baha'u'llah, reading his writings twice a day, saying the obligatory prayer, fasting, teaching the faith, through such obedience, Baha'u'llah can reveal our highest personal potential to us. So to me, this is a day not only for us to reflect on the Bab's gift to Anis as companion, but Anis's gift to himself. Anis reminds us of how great a station is obedience. It's the act of becoming love's companion. Attached is a wonderful song by Tara Ellis in tribute to Anis, which I hope you'll listen to as you have a happy holy day.